but fear is so much more dominant in the short term. Fear is always the most powerful, just like greed is. So yes, long term, when fear kind of subsides, that those make sense. Fundamental analysis makes sense. But just always remember that greed and fear will dominate in the near term. So number one, people need to remember that Bitcoin is still a teenager, or just becoming a teenager. And
yeah, maybe just.
So like when you say it's gonna survive and thrive in a market when they're printing lots of dollars, yes, long term I agree when it matures, but it's been around since 2009. It's 2022. So you basically have a 13-year-old on your hands. Now, how do 13-year-olds act with measured calm, or are they erratic, right? Well, they're emotional. They're 13-year-olds. So Bitcoin is emotional, right? You see these crazy swings, so it's not going to protect you right now against a weakening dollar. Gold will. Gold is like the grandparent. It's been around for thousands of years. It's about as mature as you can have it. And it's shown that in this market, gold has performed amazingly stable versus cryptocurrencies. Now, when crypto matures, yes, I think it's the digital gold. I think it's the place to be for liquidity and moving and kind of protecting yourself. But let's also keep in mind that during all fear, the dollar actually gets stronger. So the dollar is still king dollar right now. And so you have to remember, in fact, let's go to the DXY chart real quick and take a look. All right, so the dollar actually hit resistance, but look at the move since 2021 in the dollar. I mean, the dollar soared. Now it has hit resistance. You can see my trend line up here, classic pierce of a double top, and you are pulling back. But still, people have to remember that in fear, the dollar is still the dominant currency in the world. And so people are running into it. When Russia invades, when there's fear about a global recession, the dollar is where people go. Gold to some extent as well. Now, going to commodities, I'm a huge fan of gold right now. I think gold, again, continues to be the best performer. The gold chart is such a cool chart to look at. All right, so number one, you had a major, this is the daily chart of gold, and you had a major breakout, right? So here's your top from 2020, all this sideways consolidation. Here's a high pivot, there's your breakout, and here it is, Kurt. You know you love this play.
Ta-da.
Is that just is that a perfect retrace to the scene of the crime, the retrace to the trend line?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a thing of beauty right there. So again, gold behaving exactly like it should. Here's your double top. Look at this. So it went right to the double top, which is resistance. Then it pulls back to the scene of the crime here, which was the breakout trend line. Now it should begin its next move up. And I still think the rest of the year, gold is the best performer compared to Bitcoin as well as the stock. If we look at the chart, and this is going to set you up for why I'm so bullish on gold, think about what we have with inflation right now, and when was the last time historically that inflation was at 8, 9, 10%? And the answer is in the 70s into the 80s, right? 1970, 1980. So what I want to show you here is this kind of setup here. You have this big move up here. All right, this is from 2018 to 2020. And then you have 2 years of consolidation in the upper range, which is bullish, before the recent breakout. Now, what we want to do next is let's go back. Let's go to the weekly chart here and go back to the 1970s. And I want to show you this. So here you have almost the identical chart playing out, where you have 2 years up, 2 years of consolidation, and then the breakout. And then what's amazing about this is, I mean, look at where this thing goes. I mean, look at this run on gold. You basically went from the low of $100 down here to 900. So the question is, do I think Bitcoin will replace everything kind of thing?
Or I guess versus like, do you think this inflation game, like, is the dollar going away in your opinion?
I do think the dollar will eventually go away. Now, this is getting a little kind of crazier. This is kind of like the stuff I don't necessarily like to discuss, but I'll throw it out there. I think you get in a scenario where at some point the dollar is dethroned as the global reserve currency. That right there will cause countries to dump dollars because they don't have to do things in dollars anymore, like buying things. The dollar will ultimately collapse, and the global, especially the domestic U.S. people are going to blame. They're going to look for a scapegoat. The politicians will look for it. The politicians won't take any blame on this. They'll push it off on the Federal Reserve
for sure.
And I think that the Federal Reserve will be reconstituted as something else. They'll probably change the name. They just like people like to do. All right, it's not this. It's now this. So it's really different, but it's not.
Yeah.
But I do think there will be a new currency that comes out with restrictions, meaning that I do think eventually things get so bad where people say, we demand that a currency that we are using cannot be printed ad nauseum. And even for the government, I think there will be a demand for a balanced budget. I think there's always been an allure to gold. I think, history has shown that, through thousands of years. But the question is, will future generations hold it the same way? That's a good question. I think at least from my investing career, it will be. I don't know in 100 years. Part of me also is like, well, listen, I'm holding physical gold right now, but when Elon Musk starts mining asteroids and there's unlimited amounts of gold, do I really want to hold gold at that point, right?
That's your sell signal, yeah.
That's probably not in my lifetime at this point. Well, maybe late lifetime.
Sure.
But I will tell my kids to just be aware of that if I pass it down to them. So I think that, yes, it will have its place. People still want to buy gold Rolexes, gold this and gold that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it will be the same level of hedge as Bitcoin gains dominance as the digital gold.